So, what are we talking about today, Lisa?
This morning, we're talking about home selling during the pandemic and how to optimize, conducting a home sale and what the state of the Pasadena housing market is, which is a reflection of the LA market and most parts of the country. So I think that this will really be helpful for a lot of people who are considering moving soon or who maybe want to move but are not sure when to time things, and I'm getting a lot of questions from people about that. So I hope that it will be helpful to everybody that watches this video.
Right. Well, a little introduction for sake of anybody that watches the video. So, the John Mark companies, which John Mark Real Estate is part of, we do a wide variety of consulting and construction. We do residential stuff as well as commercial and industrial. And we provide real-time COVID-19 consulting in terms of returning companies back to work and opening up their offices. We also do a lot of problem solving in terms of entitlement and lot splits and all sorts of challenges. So we're a full service real estate services company in addition to being a brokerage company. And that gives us a lot of insight, which is why Lisa and I are doing this today. Lisa, why don't you share a couple words about what you do and where your specialties lie?
Yeah, thank you. So I am a realtor with John Mark Real Estate, and I've been doing that for a little while now. My background is very diverse. I have a background in personal property appraisals. So I, started learning about market analysis and comparables and research very early on, pretty much right out of college. And I later, when we moved to California, I opened an estate liquidation business. So I worked closely with, families that were settling estates, which included housing transactions and personal property liquidation. So that's what led me into this career path after we moved to Pasadena in 2018. My husband got a job with JPL. We relocated, and I've been doing full-time real estate since, close to then. So that's my background, and I work really closely. My philosophy on doing sales really is to work very closely with my client to customize our plan for selling their home to exactly what their needs are, because you have a wide variety. Sometimes somebody needs to live in the home while you're selling it. Sometimes people can move out. Sometimes people want to sell quickly. There's just a wide variety of circumstances. So my philosophy really is that there's not one right way, but it's the right way for your family and for us to come up with a plan together to customize a solution that is really the best fit for you. Because my background, what I've learned is that, moving and selling a home and uprooting your family, whether it's down the street or across the country, it's a big life transition. So that's just my philosophy of how I come to the table and meet with my clients. And now we're doing those things virtually, but just to help them with figuring out the best possible way for their exact circumstance.
Yeah, so how is, everything's changed, everything you just talked about in terms of um, every aspect of looking at a house, every aspect of marketing a house, every aspect of how many houses are on the market, the nature of the market, everything has changed in the last 6 months. I know that you prepared some data. Let's talk about how things have changed year over year.
Sure, sounds good. So we're going to talk about a couple of different categories here today. And let's see here. We're going to look at the current market. So the first things we're going to talk about is what's happening at the local and national levels. What I'm seeing is a lot of buyers remember the last housing crash, and they're hesitant. They're hoping for another crash. They keep thinking that, somehow they're magically going to get $1 million house for 500,000, that the prices are just going to drop by these drastic rates. And what's happening is mortgage rates keep dropping their historic lows, and that's pulling them in. So there's kind of a push and pull. They recognize that the rates are really, really low right now, and they're shopping for homes, and they're out there looking for homes because they're getting these great, wonderful rates. All of that is never mind to the fact that some people have to buy or sell no matter what. They have to relocate, they have a new job, their family is growing, they don't fit in the location where they are anymore. They were renting and their lease is ending. So no matter what is going on nationally, people always have reasons why they need to move, whether they decide to rent or buy. No matter what goes on, there's a need for people to have homes. So
Yeah, but the scarcity in the market now, I mean, there's so many fewer homes on the market now that that's really propping up demand. I think that a lot of people are on the sidelines waiting to go into the market, or on the sidelines waiting to purchase in the market. Don't you agree?
Yes, I agree. So what we're seeing right now is inventory is low. And another big difference is this current circumstance is very different from the housing market crash that buyers kind of mythologically remember and think is this magical thing that's going to happen again. Inventory is really low, and sellers have a lot more equity now than they did. So what I want to do is show you, here is the Pasadena housing home inventory going back from May of 2019 on the chart to July of 2020. And what those numbers show us, this light green is the number of homes for sale. The dark green is the number of sold homes, and our red line is pended. And pended is when a house has an offer and it's pending its closing. So what we see in this chart is that from June to July of 2020, everything went up a little bit. So we went up, homes for sale went up by 7.5%. Homes sold went up by 14.5%. Pended homes went up by 6.8%. But if you compare the quarter from May 2020 to July 2020 to the 2019 quarters, everything, what's in terms of the inventory, is lower. So it was almost a 29% decrease in homes for sale. So consequently, also fewer homes did sell and fewer homes did pend. It was 23% sold lower and 18% lower pending. So that is something that what you can see from this chart, though, is homes are still selling. Even though the inventory is lower, homes are selling. And we're going to look at another couple of sets here. So
yeah, I would say that the scarcity is actually helping to support home prices. And the scarcity is occurring partly because the economic pressures to sell a home, if you couldn't afford it any longer, if there used to be that pressure up until February, that or March, if you couldn't afford a home, you felt economically pressured to get rid of it. But now the government is sort of safeguarding everybody who's in a parallel situation. So that's dampening down on sales as well, I would think. Don't you think?
I think so. And I think also people who don't have to list right now, people who are secure in their career is steady, they're just holding off. They're just, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. So many people who don't need to sell immediately are postponing. I mean, because you're already dealing with figuring out, how to take care of if you have kids at home, and social isolation and all of these other things. So a lot of people have just frozen that and said, we'll just kind of wait for a little while. But the next slide that I have showed you that Pasadena sales are closing faster, and they're closing, this green line shows you the sale price to the original list price. So in July, they sold for 99% of list price, which is pretty much the same as last summer. Last summer, it was 99, 101, 99 for the summer. So this chart shows you that the number of days, and as you can see, this last quarter, we sold for a little bit fewer days. It's about, let's see, 14.9% faster that homes are selling. So in July, homes sold on average in 38 days. So that's a pretty quick, when you
Well,
are.
that's a very stable. I mean, if you look at the March through July graphs, that shows me incredible stability in the market, in terms of just the flow of the number of homes that are coming on and going off, and how close you're selling to list. That's crazy stable. And so everything you're hearing on the news would tend to make you think that the world has gone mad and it's very unstable. But if you actually look at the data, it's incredibly stable.
Right. And we're seeing this in Pasadena. We have a strong housing market. Other areas around us are very similar to these numbers. So, and when people talk in the news about national trends, what's happening in Manhattan or Miami Beach or in a rural town, in Texas, really has no impact on us here. We're where we are, and I think it's important for us to really understand the place where we are. The next slide I'm sharing is Pasadena home prices. So this is just showing, where we are with pricing. And we did, from June to July, prices of 2020, prices did come up a little bit by 1.5%. The quarter between May and July of 2019 to 2020, we are down slightly. We're down by 5%. But I think that that's really not that big of an amount that we're down by, considering, people have been thinking, some buyers are thinking there's going to be this huge crash and you're going to lose half the value of your home. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. And this chart, I put up the LA housing market chart just to show, you can see it's a very similar, this is for all of LA County, and you can see it's very similar, the trends that are happening in our region. So, I can pull up La Cañada, I can pull up, Monrovia, different areas, and I really see the same thing happening. Oh, Jack just called me. Hello.
Yeah, you have to let me unmute again.
Oh, okay, hold on, participants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Jack is back.
Now I can see you. I guess they kicked me out, but when it let me back in, now I can see everything.
Oh, great. Okay, so it looks good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I just covered the rest of, the LA market, and now you were going to talk a little bit about the national, kind of the economic climate.
Yeah. So this is all sort of building up to why it is that we haven't experienced the kind of market correction that so many people were afraid we were going to experience. But this is a great chart. This is a chart that measures commodity prices by unemployment. So if you think about an economy from a very macro point of view, if people are making stuff and they're making more of it, then employment starts to grow and grow and grow. And then when people stop making stuff, prices drop and people get unemployed. Well, this graph really captures the boom bust cycle. And you can see back in 2008, there's a nice wide line, which really clearly shows what we all remember in that cycle. That was the end of a 50-year cycle. That was really the Great Recession. Now we weren't expecting anything really more than a really minor correction, and it happened. If you look at the depth of the hit that we took in the first half of this year, it shows up very clearly on the model. Mm-hmm. And that's going to bounce back. It's going to either bounce back in Q3 or Q4. and it's going to get back up to the same levels it was at within 12 months is everything that I've seen in terms of, monetary prediction. So for the people that are out there worried about the correction, when is the correction going to happen? It happened. It happened. We're experiencing it right now. If you can go to the next slide for me. The overall market is down 3 to 5% in terms of where the financial markets are. And GDP is down 5% as well. It's down 33% in Q2, 5% Q1 overall. The prediction is, if you look at what CMB is looking at for Q3 and Q4, they think that we're going to have a really rapid recovery and that the market will be down, between 5 and 7% at the end of the year. So if the market's already corrected itself globally 5%, realistically, it might correct itself another 2, 3%. It's not going to be, I don't think, a big enough correction to cause panic selling or to cause the markets to collapse. If you go to the next slide, and the reason why that's so true is that these red bars indicate how much personal income Americans have lost in the last 4 months. This is due to unemployment, layoffs, and lack of productivity. The green indicates how much money the government has replaced to try and shore up the economy. Well, in all cases, in the last 3 months, the amount of money that the government has put into the economy has far exceeded the amount of money that people have lost. And so there's a lot of money out there. And this is why buying is going to continue to be robust, because some people are winners in this situation and some people are losers. And the winners are taking all that free money that they're getting from the government at the same time that they haven't really lost their personal income, and they're looking for stuff to buy. That investor class is going to continue to buy whatever they can, especially when there's this much money floating around in the economy. And then the next slide, I think there's one more.
Oh, no.
Is there? No. Okay. So just going back, the one thing I would add to your mindset as you go forward here is that the Congress, the one thing that could really hit us is if in Q3, when everybody expects a 20% increase in the economy, if that doesn't happen because of another surge in COVID, and let's say that Q3 ends up being another, negative number, the GDP for 2012 won't recover. Q4 won't be enough under any circumstance to recover. Then you might be looking at a potential 20% decline in the overall market rate. Congress knows this. I mean, they've seen these same economic models probably in much greater detail. And they're standing by to issue another $1.5 trillion of stimulus money directly to consumers, the way that they did the last one. If you remember, in 2008, the stimulus money went where? Where did it go in 2008?
Corporations.
It went to banks and corporations.
Yeah.
And did that help us?
No.
No. So it turns out that if you give money to the people, it helps. And this has never happened before. So one of the reasons why everybody's sort of waiting for the correction to happen is because nobody's ever seen this level of government payouts to help prop up the economy. Mm-hmm. This is for sure going to be the pattern through November, through the elections. And so after the elections, things are going to change. But I would say from now to November, looking back on that chart that you had, which showed very stable numbers in the residential market, mm-hmm. I think that's exactly what you're going to see for the next 6 months. The government's going to keep everything nice and stable.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about strategies that we have in place for selling. So one of the things that I think about in terms of representing people and helping people through this transition is, managing the stress and risks that you have. It's usually for most families stressful, even during ordinary circumstances. selling during the virus, there is just a lot more to deal with. And I think, to sell a home, it's going to require more planning in advance, more coordination with your real estate team. You have to stand out and appeal to buyers. You don't want to add risk to, how you're showing your homes. You want to protect your own family. I think staging is going to be important for those folks that want to get top dollar, being able to stage the home and have it really show very, very well. And, sometimes that can just be in photos, and then families can live in the home if they need to. But ideally, being able to, have the home be vacant, have it be staged, is a very, very good way to attract the most buyers. Virtual technology needs to be used more than ever. You really need high-end marketing with great photos. You need additional things in your listing, like floor plans and walkthrough tours, so people have a sense of what they're going to see when they do finally, come in and take a look at the home.
One of the great things about our company is that we have in-house CAD and in-house 3D rendering. And that allows us to, supplement certainly documents. We can, and Lisa, you've been pretty expert at taking cluttered space and having it photo altered in order to remove the clutter. And so all those sorts of technology schemes can really help out in terms of, trying to bring a property to its highest potential.
Absolutely. Yeah. Home buyers, I mean, unless they're bargain shoppers, I think that, they're not going to overlook, clutter right now. They're not going to come out and make an appointment and put their family at risk to come and see a home that they don't really already love. So
yeah, I think you nailed it right there. There's always been the stratification in the market in terms of, the fixers versus the move-in ready houses. And I continue to see a lot of ads and see a lot of players in the market who are looking for anything they can buy, bottom feeders, looking for the fixers. And I think that mostly our clientele are probably trying to sell top of market. Wouldn't you agree?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, they want the most. And so we have to work with them to make the home look the best, appeal to the most buyers, and have people feel safe. So that's a good segue to, talking about safe showings and how we can consider safety and, what options we have, what's mandatory and what's optional that we can add in to build in that sense of safety and security. There's not one right way to secure a buyer. So like I said before, work to develop specific plans to the circumstances of each listing. But we have certain minimum requirements. So for everybody that's coming into a home, we're doing the virus release form. That's just a legal protection for you when you're listing. Everybody's warned about the virus. The next thing is when people are going to come in and do a physical examination of the home, we're providing masks, sanitizer, shoe coverings, cleaning supplies to make sure that your home, we're going to have rules for engagement of viewing the home. Another thing that we're doing is virtual agent walkthroughs, so we can schedule with technology to be able to show prospective buyers a virtual walkthrough where we can actually, in a conference call and in video screen sharing, and answer specific questions where just the agent is in the home, but answering people's questions. So it's kind of like a virtual open house, and people can examine the home and get their questions answered. And, we can show details about specific things that they're wondering about. And I think that that's going to be a good tool for people who are listing to kind of replace a traditional in-person open house. Also, limiting visitors is another mandatory thing that we want to do. So we're limiting visitors. So it's just 3 people in a home at a time. So those days where people came in and they brought, the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, all the kids and cousins and aunts and uncles, to see the home they were going to buy. We're not doing that right now. They really have to limit visitors. And once they have a secure contract, then they can come in, we can schedule times. But even then we want to do safe, and have people just be coming in 3 at a time.
Yeah. So we were talking about that yesterday. Do you remember how many people were involved in your last home purchase?
Yeah. So a normal home open house, I would see about 50% of the people coming had extended family members with them. And, the other 50%, some of them were just basically, neighbors that they just saw the open house sign and they just, kind of want to come in and poke around, nosy neighbors type of a thing. So I think, during the virus, one of the main things that we can do is really just put a clamp down on that to protect the home sellers. There's just no reason for curious people to come through your house right now. It's just, there's no reason to
Right.
do it. Yeah.
But on the flip side, when we have that family mass of 14 people with the grandparents and the brothers and sisters of the buyers and all of the children and their cousins and everybody is, the old fashioned way going to come over and see this thing and make sure that it's right. It's got the right pool and it's got the right game room and it's what everybody's dreamed about. And now that can't happen. Now that for some families has always been the last decision making, tread on the stair that they had to get past that all in meeting. So now I think what we're going to have to do is schedule something special for that special kind of a family. Like we'll have to do a floor plan. We'll have to let them label all their rooms. We'll have to do virtual tours. We'll have to I think reach a little deeper and ask those questions early on, like how are you going to make decision and how can we accommodate that?
Absolutely. And I can work closely with, if I'm doing a listing and the buyer's agent, I'm really good at coming up with solutions to problems like this. If they say to me, we really want to be able to show before we put in an offer, we want to do a more detailed showing for more family members, I will work with them to come up with a plan that the home seller feels comfortable with so that we can get the most offers in. And I'm very good at working collaboratively through issues and at, seeing the problem and finding a way to solve the problem. And that's going to get the most offers in for our home sellers.
We were talking about this yesterday too, but in our return to work consulting, we do work with industrial hygiene and we're sort of on the cutting edge of how is COVID-19 spread, and it is spread primarily through respiratory micro droplets, which are being spread through the atmosphere. The touch spread was way over exaggerated.
Right.
It's mostly through the air, and
right.
So it actually makes a lot of sense to me that if you were to put 4 or 5 people into a room with an agent that they didn't know, and the agent may have been exposed, and they're all breathing that same air, they're all going to get sick. That's going to be a super spreader incident.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
it makes sense to me that we're taking these precautions. Everybody has to wear a face mask, and everybody has to basically sanitize on the way in, sanitize on the way out, and it makes sense. We don't want to create super spreader incidents.
Right. And we want to protect the home seller and their family as well.
Right.
Added measures that we can consider for people are vacating before the sale. So something like, if they can be away for a week or the first, 10 days that we're on the market, that's another thing. You can go on a vacation, stay with family. Some people are able to just rent for a little while and then see what happens and then, decide what home they're going to buy later. We can pre-qualify buyers and require that everybody that's coming in physically is pre-qualified and target those virtual open houses to the right people that we really know are looking in your market. So, one-on-one coming up with those added measures, I don't think that it hurts you, because the pre-qualification, if they're serious about buying your house, when they put in their offer, they have to have a qualification and proof of funds anyway. So why not take that step and put it in with our listing requirements?
Right, because if somebody comes to the table to buy a house, which is going to close, for our own knowledge, it's only going to be on the market a few weeks before it's going to get the offer that it's going to sell for. If somebody comes to the table and they are not pre-qualified, there's no way they're going to get pre-qualified and make an offer and fall within the window that house is going to be on the market.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so our last section here is talking about strategies for pricing your home. Um, with appraisals and analysis, I really work closely to come up with accurate comparables, which differentiates me from a lot of other folks out there looking at appraisals and looking at current market comps. You can't just say my house is 3 bedrooms and that house was 3 bedrooms and we're in the same neighborhood, so my house is going to sell for the same as theirs, or my next door neighbor sold for this per square foot and I'm going to multiply that and figure out what mine should be. There are so many factors that you have to look at, and that buyers, when they're analyzing your home, they're not looking at the price per square foot. They're comparing you to the competition of what they see out there. So if you've got 2 bedrooms and they're shopping for a 2-bedroom home, you really want to screen out a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, other size homes that are much smaller or much larger. You want to find ones that are in a comparable condition and compare apples to apples. And I think that really helps with having confidence in where you're coming in for your target price. Staying competitive is important, appealing to the max number of buyers. And those are strategies that we can use to get you top dollar and to give you a sense of where we really think the house is going to sell. Right now in Pasadena, it's true, some homes are selling for, above the asking price. Some, people price too high and then it sits on the market. And at that point, it's just a no-win game. You just drop and drop and drop. And home sellers that put themselves in that circumstance, their offers get lower and lower. They'll say sometimes, well, I had an offer for higher than that before. And it's like, to the buyer, they don't care. They say you should have sold it then.
Right. I had a home that came on and off of the market 3 times in a year. The sellers put it on for a month, didn't get the offers they wanted, took it off, waited a few months, put it back on.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking to cash out at their maximum value. They wanted to retire to Santa Barbara, and their game plan was to get the most money they could. And if they didn't get their price, they weren't going to move forward. They lost a year of their lives waiting for that.
Right.
How much was that year worth?
Right. Yes. And I tell people that too with liquidations, when they're thinking about things and they want to try to hold out and get more. And you also really want to factor in your costs. You have carrying costs on a house, maintenance costs, taxes, insurance. If you're not really where you want to be, is it worth it to, be very aggressive? And some people are somewhat ambivalent, like, well, I'll sell if I can get this, but otherwise I won't sell. And that's one of the reasons too, when you look at the housing inventory chart, there's more homes on the market than actually sell, because there are some people who just say, well, if I can get to this crazy price, then I'll sell my house. And they just list it without, really one way or the other actually wanting to sell their home. For the most part, that's not going to be, who we're working with. We're working with people who are serious, who want to move, and who are going to be as dedicated as we are to making this sale happen. So for me, frankly, as an agent, sometimes I've met with people and felt, that what they want to ask for their house is just unrealistic. And, I'll tell them that I would rather lose the listing than get the listing and then, have it sit on the market and have them be ultimately very unhappy with the offers that come in. I just feel that it's a waste of time.
And I think some people are unrealistic about, or maybe they're too close to their problems, too close to the deficiencies in their home to recognize them as deficiencies, or they've overlooked them for so long that they assume that somebody else will and see the diamond in the rough. But I think the reality is that you walk into a home and it's got, if the front door greets you with, 1980s vintage finishes, and you open the door and the paint's not fresh, or there's linoleum instead of tile, or there's chips in the tile, and there's a, Home Depot brass $25 light fixture in the hallway, and it just looks cheap and dated, even though it the homeowner may see it as like, wow, this is a clean, nice house. But it's not. It's not top of market. And so for us to put together a crew and to change those finishes and update the house, it might only be a 2-day in and out, boom. We might only be talking about, $5,000 or $10,000 worth of quick and dirty work. They could easily add $50,000 of market value.
Right. And those are really important little touches. And again, home buyers right now, a lot of them, I mean, I'm talking to one potential, per family, and she just said, I don't want to have to do anything. I want to just move in and have the house be the way that I like it, because it's so stressful right now with the pandemic. And, she just can't even imagine. She's not going to, pay a little bit less and have to do work on the house. As the home seller, really doing those little updates and fixing those little things is going to make a big difference. And one thing I do recommend to people is considering to do is doing things like a termite inspection before, doing a home inspection before, and that way the things that are going to come up, and if there's any major things that should be addressed. And knowledge is power. Those kinds of things can be important tools for getting your listing to really show as well as it can, and to share that information. And
and also like be smart about stuff. Like when you're going through and you're preparing your listing agreement, and you're saying, we don't really want that 30-year-old freezer in the garage. Let's just leave it with the house. That doesn't help you. I mean, the buyer that's coming in and asking, what about that old freezer? And the agent says that goes with the house. That's one more reason to walk away from that house, right?
Right, exactly.
But if it's a brand new freezer and you're willing to let it go with the house, that actually could be a plus. So I think that it's really all about, us as real estate professionals trying to help our clients understand, look, there's really only two markets to be in. You're either a fixer. I mean, if it's even a couple of things, they see you as a fixer, or you're top of market. So if you're not top of market, you're a fixer.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And the people that are shopping for fixer homes are definitely expecting to see deep discounts on what they're going to get. Yeah. So, okay. Well, then our conclusions here are, in terms of timing, if you're a home seller, it looks like right now it's good timing. And for the, short-term foreseeable future, I think it's good timing. Prices are holding. They have not dropped drastically. We want to factor in safety for the homeowners. We want to do high-end marketing, target marketing. And, in terms of your pricing, you want to compete for buyers and generate best offers. But we want to make sure that those buyers are the serious buyers that are really, interested in putting in offers, not just neighbors that are just poking around to see how your house looks. So those are my main conclusions for, our presentation today. And I really hope that it's been helpful for people watching. And I'd love to talk to people more and get them other information. If they want those slides and data, just send me over an email or a text message.
All right, hey, great discussion. I appreciate this time with you, Lisa. I think that as we get our next one together in a couple of weeks, it'll be fun to see how the market has changed and how the trend is happening. Okay,
Thanks, Jack.
well, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay, bye.